What's good, y'all? Tristan here, and today I'm going to be sharing with you 10 differences between politics in America and politics in Australia. So first up, in Australia, you vote for the party, not the politician. So what I mean by this is, like in America right now, you would vote for Donald Trump or Joe Biden. But in Australia, they don't directly elect their head of government. We have a president here, it's the prime minister. They don't directly elect the prime minister. They vote for their party in the House of Representatives, and then whichever party has the most members in it, they then, within themselves, they pick someone to be the leader of their party, and then the leader that they elect becomes the prime minister, so he or she then becomes the head of the entire government. Now, there are definitely some pros and cons to this system, and I'm going to discuss them later after I touch on a couple more differences, but I'm really going to focus on later why, due to how the political system is set up here, why Donald Trump or someone like Donald Trump would never, ever be able to get elected president or prime minister here in Australia. But my second difference between America and Australia is their campaign time. The amount of time you spend campaigning before election is so much shorter than it is in America. It is exhausting how much campaigning we get. I feel like we are always in the midst of an election in the US, because pretty much you have to figure out who you want to be the head of your party. That was like an entire year process just to be, it's called the primaries, to pick the leader of the party. Then once you get that person, it's like an entire another year of campaigning for those people going head to head before you finally pick a president. In Australia, their campaign time is super quick, so it's about 5 weeks, so much quicker, so much more to the point than it is in the US, and oh my god, I would love it if we didn't have so much campaigning in America. It'd be great to adopt this system. Like maybe not that short, but if we could just do like 6 months or something, like come on. The third difference between politics in America and Australia is also regarding the kind of campaign style. So in America, campaigns cost tons and tons of money for all this time, but you get that money from either donors, like citizens, people like me donating to that politician, or you get companies to donate money to you, or you get, I don't know, you call and you ask for a bunch of money and you use that money for your campaign. Well, in Australia, that is not how it works. It's like the Australian Election Commission, I think is what it's called, or no, Australian Electoral Commission, that's what it is. They give a set amount of money to each party, and then they let that party like spend that money however they want to campaign. So it's like, boom, this is how much money you have to spend. It's like taxpayers' money that they gave you, you budget it, you have to spend it wisely, like make the most of it, do the best campaign you can with this amount of money. I actually really like this because it eliminates the whole problem of like, you know, really rich people or companies giving money to certain politicians, like I scratch your back, you scratch mine type of thing. Just kind of eliminates that. Number 4 is compulsory voting. So in America, it is very optional as your right to vote, but you don't have to vote if you don't want to. Here in Australia, it is mandatory, it is an obligation, it is compulsory. If you do not vote in their election, then you will get fined. Now that being said, something I just recently found out about voting here is whenever you go to the polls to vote, you can get a snag on the bobby. Like that's so Australian. They have Barbies at their, barbecues at their polling booths. So yeah, you can go vote and then get yourself a snag. I don't know, that is so Australian to me. Like y'all's bobbies, that's such an Australian thing, and for y'all to have that at voting booths, it's just, I don't know, it just fits Australia so much. It's the most Australian thing I've ever heard. The sixth difference is that here in Australia, elections are every 3 years. Well, in America, they're every 4, or you could say 2 years. So pretty much like the presidential election is every 4 years, but for the House of Representatives is every 2 years. And in Australia, you vote for the person that represents you in the House of Representatives every 3 years, and then they pick the president, so there's not really a presidential election. But anyways, you do that every 3 years. Now, something similar in our politics is that senators, their terms serve for 6 years. However, the difference between them is that in America, every 2 years, 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election. Here in Australia, it is every 3 years, but it's half of the Senate. So every 3 years, up to half of the Senate could change. Now, number 8 is that leadership in Australia can change without an election. So in America, the only way for the president to not be president anymore is for him to get voted out. Like for there to be a new election, the people vote, they pick someone else, boom, president's out. I mean, I guess he could also be impeached, but no president in the history of the US has ever been kicked out of office for being impeached. But in Australia, there are a couple ways for the head of the government, the prime minister, to change without there actually being an election. So there's actually been, this is kind of has been a problem recently in Australia. There was like a time in 5 or 6 years where there are 5 different leaders of Australia. And one of the reasons for this is because someone from inside the party can challenge the current prime minister. So as I said, it is the party that elects the prime minister, the head of the government here. And so if they don't think he's doing a good job, then someone else can challenge, say, hey, I'll do a better job than him. And they can do, like within their party, just the people in the House can do an election, and they can pick that person to replace the head of the government. And this has actually happened a couple times in recent Australian history. So could you imagine if anytime the Republicans didn't like Trump, they thought he was, I don't know, making a mistake, instead of kissing his ass like they do, they could just go, oh yeah, you know what, you're kind of crazy, so-and-so's better, then boom, Donald Trump out, new guy in. And then the second way that the prime minister can be replaced without like serving a full 3 years is that they can call for an early election. So if the circumstances warrant it, then the prime minister can dissolve the government and call for a early election, and yeah, and then boom, new prime minister without that one serving its full 3 years. So I know I covered a lot, but real quick, I'm just gonna point out why Donald Trump or someone like Donald Trump would never get elected here in Australia. And the main reason for that is he would never become the prime minister to begin with, because Donald Trump was a big outsider. Like, if you remember, Republicans hated him when he was running. Like, he even said he might not run as a Republican if they didn't make him like the head of the party. He was gonna run as an independent. Like Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, these people who kiss his ass so much now that like their nose is covered in his shit. Like, they did not like Donald Trump before he was like the Republican ticketed, like the ticketed Republican.
He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. And you know how you make America great again? Tell Donald Trump to go to hell.
I think he's a kook. I think he's crazy. I think he's unfit for office.
I like the president. I want to help him. I hope he's successful. What President Trump has done is historic, deserves the Nobel Peace Prize and then some.
Donald Trump was such an outsider. It's not going to be someone who's outside of your party who then like your party picks to be the head of the government. Like, that's just not how it works. You're going to pick someone who's probably been a member of your party for a while and is more not as extreme, I would say, as Donald Trump. In addition, because you can oust the leader at any time, like, we're stuck with them for 4 years. Like, the Republicans, they kind of, they don't have to, but they're more obligated to kiss his ass and suck up to him and agree with everything that he says, simply because he's the leader of their party. Well, in Australia, if enough people in your party don't like you as the leader, which plenty of Republicans, I'm sure, don't like Donald Trump, they could get together, pick someone else that they like more, boom, that guy's in president, Donald Trump's out. All right, number 10. So, even though voting is mandatory here in Australia, I would say there is much more of an interest in politics in America than there is in Australia. Politics here just aren't nearly as big. I've had a really hard time in Australia learning about the politics here because everyone I talk to, like all the Australians I talk to, most of them don't know much about politics. And it's funny because they all admit to it. They're like, oh, I know nothing about politics. Oh, I just put my name on something and throw it in the ballot. Oh, I just vote for this party. I would say not just the majority, but the vast majority of Australians don't seem to be much in tune with their politics. And I know in America, people always, you always say Jimmy Kimmel and people like, they're always making fun of Americans for being stupid and not knowing about their politics. But really, the friends I know and the people I know in America, everyone to some extent knows what's going on in politics. Maybe not everyone, but like the majority of educated people in America know what's going on in politics. I'm sure there's more differences than I noted in this video, and if you know any, feel free to drop them below. You know me, I read all the comments, so yeah, love to hear what you think. If you want to know any more differences between America and Australia, you can check that out right over there. I thank you all so much for watching, guys, and yeah, peace out, y'all.